Okay, this is the Open Space Committee meeting. Today is May 10th, and the meeting is starting at 7:30. I am going to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live over the Lunenburg Public Channel, and it will be uploaded to the public access Facebook page and YouTube channel, and it will be found at the YouTube channel within 24 hours. The following information is also provided for members of the public who would like to participate remotely. From a computer, please use the link below or go into zoom.com and type meeting number 792-737-0353. And this agenda does not have all the language. Let me pull from another one. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed in fact may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent of permitted by open meeting law. And with that, I will start with a roll call. Brendan?
Here.
Matt? I think you're on mute.
Yep.
Oh,
There
you
it
got
is.
it. Matt?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
And Mary?
Here.
Okay, and with us, we also have a guest, Sharon, who will be joining us on one of the meeting agenda items. And with that, did we have time to review all the minutes so we can approve them? Yeah, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from September 8, 22, February 8, 23, and April 12, 23?
I
So
so
moved.
move. Oh,
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, and again, a roll call for the vote. Brendan?
Approved. Yay.
Matt?
Aye.
Eric?
aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I for myself. All right, 110 Bird Street, continued discussion. And Sharon is here, and I'm going to invite her to speak to the topic. She can give us some information. And once she's done, I'll invite the board to the commission to ask her questions. And after that, we can have a discussion. Okay, Sharon, would you like to bring us,
Sure.
enlighten us what's going on there?
Well, I don't know how much history people know about it, but the land in question is 110 Burridge Street, and I live right across the street at 77 Burridge Street. At approximately the same time that we moved into this house, which was 2000, I have to look it up, I can never remember, almost 20 years ago. The owners of that property had been involved with the state for a number of years for contamination from their septic business, and they accepted industrial waste. The cleanup started actually, I think, the very month that we moved in, and of course we were at work, we didn't know anything about it. But a couple of years after that, as they were testing local wells, our well was contaminated. And we have had filters on it for a couple of years. And we really kind of thought that was the end of it. It is a beautiful piece of property. It's open space. It's heavily forested. There are a couple of feeder brooks that go into the Catacutamog and then into Lake Shirley. It's a very quiet, peaceful place. And we were unaware until March that the owners of the property want to develop it. Their plan is to ask the water district to expand the boundaries of the water district so that they can bring a water pipe down Burridge Street, and thereby avoiding for their development proposal the necessity to dig any more private wells. And I asked them at the meeting, I knew nothing about this until March, at the meeting, if they had ever considered some type of conservation for that land, and that I described a little bit about what happened at the Lane property, where, after a lot of work, Brandon remembers this, I'm quite sure, and many grant applications, and a lot of hard work between the property owners and the town, we came up with an arrangement that benefited all parties. The town got this absolutely gorgeous piece of land with trails on it. The owner got 4 or 5 developable house lots out of that, so he was able to make some money off of it. I don't recall if there was a forestry plan involved with that, but that was one of the tools that we had talked about. And I do know that one of the owners had said to me that they had considered a tree farm there instead of the development, which sounds like a much better idea to me. And I just wanted to start a conversation with the Open Space Committee. I actually talked with Mike, and I talked with Bob Pease about it a little as well. I think there would be enormous benefits in protecting this, one of the last really large parcels of open space in the town. It's 50 acres. I also have some real concerns about the disturbance of the soil with construction. They want to put in a subdivision, 25 houses, a road, and 40 or so senior units. A pretty big development for 50 acres. And I think it's to the town's benefit to avoid development where possible, because it's more expensive to support houses than it is to support open space. So that's about all I really know about it. I just kind of wanted to put it on the table there and have the Open Space Committee think about whether it might be something that you would consider approaching the owners about. I don't feel that I can do that. I am a neighbor. I'm just a private citizen, and it's not really any. I have no standing in this matter, but the Open Space Committee does, and so does Conservation.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. One quick thing, I forgot to ask if anyone could do the minutes for the meeting.
As the clerk, I'm already doing it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
You bet.
So back to the subject. Does member of the boards have any questions for Sharon?
Sharon, you're probably familiar with our open space criteria. I think we originally set those criteria when we were on the committee together many moons ago, and so if I remember right, and I don't have them at my fingertips, but I remember we have I think it's 5 or 6 criteria. I think it's 6. They're listed in one of the appendices of the Open Space Committee, or of the Open Space Plan rather. 50 acres or greater, adjoining other town land, important for local agriculture, wildlife habitats, scenic preservation. I'm doing it from memory, but these are the things that the sort of the criteria that we check for whether or not a property should be considered for the town for acquisition. Do you know how this matches up to those criteria?
Well, I'd have to take a look at what the criteria are now, because I haven't seen your current open space plan, and it's been a long time, but it is over 50 acres. It's obviously a very important wildlife habitat, because there have already been at least 4 developments within a half a mile of here, and all of that open space, some of which was orchard, some of which was forest land, is now gone. And this is the one place where we have a lot of wildlife habitat that's undisturbed. There's, it's this big tract. I don't know that it is adjacent to existing protected land. That's unfortunate, because I remember that one of the things that we had talked about was sort of creating like an emerald necklace for Lunenburg, where we could put all these adjoining pieces together and really protect the open space here. So I don't believe that there is any open space or farmland that it's adjacent to, except for my farm. But that, and I'm not really, we're just a homestead farm. It's not really a big farm. There is a piece of conservation land right behind us. So that's maybe, I'd say approximately 800 feet or so from the boundary of their land to this other conservation land. Behind us is a Blanding's turtle habitat. We're surrounded by wetlands. So we have wetlands behind our house, and at 110 Burge, there's quite a few wetlands as well. I don't recall what the others are. I don't think that they do anything agriculture. In fact, I know that they don't. Although one of the things I wondered about is forestry management. Most of the land there is forested, and I think they could benefit, and the town could benefit from a forestry management plan there. So.
Great,
I've
thank you.
taken-
I know it's in the plan, and I'm as feverishly as I'm listening to you, looking to see if I can pull it up, and I don't have it. But
I found it.
okay, great.
The criteria is the parcel is equal or greater than 50 acres, contains important habitat. I think you named them all, Brendan. Habitat
Okay, that's good.
resources, provide public access indoor recreation, important for scenic vistas or maintaining rural character, contiguous to other protected open space of recreation resources, support local agricultural viability. So you named them all.
So, so to the point of your point about the emerald necklace, I think that was the idea of those criteria, right? Was if it either adjoins other protected open space or it's big enough, 50 acres or more, to kind of be its own interesting standalone piece of conservation land. So that's how those two criteria were thought of to kind of work together. Important for agricultural viability. Obviously, if it was either contained agricultural land itself, important agricultural soils, or helped provide a buffer to a farm. As Matt will probably testify, that neighbors are not always awesome for a farm. And so a whole bunch of additional residential neighbors to a farm could be problematic. So that's how I think I would be looking at agricultural viability from a criteria standpoint. Wildlife habitat, I'd be looking at defined priority areas for wildlife habitat. Every piece of woods has birds and bunnies. That doesn't necessarily mean it's important wildlife habitat. So we try to look at state designations like biomap core habitat or rare and endangered natural resources on the property, that kind of thing. Scenic vistas, is it on a designated scenic town road? Does it have a lot of frontage on that road? Or is it within an otherwise designated state area of scenic importance, which we have some of those areas in town, which are also shown in some of the mapping in the open space plan. So when I think of those criteria, I know you've got the 50 acres or greater. You don't have the agricultural piece. I don't think it hits the scenic piece.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, what is, because this backs up on reservoir.
Yeah, we have, if you look in the plan, we have a scenic inventory, important scenic areas, you know, so it's either in one or it's not. And so, and I don't think it is. I mean, again, every piece of woods has a scenic character to it, but is it designated as scenic importance, you know, and the plan sort of designates that already. So if I just want to be true to what we're showing in the plan when we're doing those evaluations.
Yep, absolutely.
Wildlife habitat, same way, you know, is it in one of those designated important areas for wildlife habitat? And agricultural areas, again, we know where the prime ag soils are. We know this property doesn't have, you know, agricultural land on it. It's not adjacent to any active agriculture. So might not meet the minimum criteria of ringing 3 of those bells, which will be the first way I would measure this opportunity.
Okay.
The Lane property hit 5 out of 6. The more recent Saliba acquisition, I think, hit 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
So, just to put it in context, right, in terms of the other types of efforts that we've done, where we've asked the town to step up and spend taxpayer dollars and invest a whole bunch of time from a group of volunteers to try to effectuate this type of outcome. So I say that really as a caution to, and I share your enthusiasm for conserving it. But I'm not sure that it's going to be hard for us to say to the town that this is our highest priority, where we should be spending our efforts and our dollars, because both are very limited in terms of where we can ask them to step up. So
was there not also a criteria or questions that would be raised about foregone revenue if it was not in the tax base? I seem to recall that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that folks always are concerned about, and certainly came up in the Saliba conversation in particular about taking the property off the tax rolls.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can.
And I hear you on the cost of community services argument, that residential development can and often does cost the town more in expenses than it does in revenues for additional fire and public safety protection, additional town services, particularly additional kids in school, and all the costs that are associated with residential owners. But that argument has not yet carried the day in any of our conversations at the town level. I think people hear it, they understand it, but they also say, yeah, but if you don't have people, you don't have a town. And there's a lot of truth in that too. So
I think we have a lot more people now than we did 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a big help. But in any event, I do have the numbers on the taxes that they have been assessed, the value of the property. There is a really big question about whether this development project would actually be approved in all of its hurdles that it has to face through the town, given what they're asking. But I think that and I can pull some numbers together for you and let you guys decide, whether you want to pursue this any further or not. I just wanted to put it out there, and also to raise some awareness about what is really happening when they convene this water district meeting. The only thing that's going to be on the agenda, they're going to call a special meeting. There's only going to be one item on that, one warrant item on that, and it's going to be, should we expand the water district boundary or not? End of discussion. And it makes it sound like it's going to be such a public good. And that's very deceptive, because obviously there's a reason why they want to expand the water district. And I can't say it, I'm not saying anything against the water district commissioners or their board themselves. Their brief is very, very limited. And their goal basically is to, get as many people on public water as they possibly can. And I respect that. They have absolutely no control over what's going to happen to that property after the decision has been made to move the water district boundary. It's absolutely not within their control.
Right.
And
So Sharon, some other members might have some questions for you. Does anyone have any questions for Sharon? No. Brendan, I'm gonna make one comment, a couple of comments to your comments. This piece of property abuts a Powell property. That is the access is through reservoir, and I do think they do farming in that property.
They actually, Mr. Chairman, if I may, they just built
Sure.
a house on that property.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yes.
Is there farming on that property? Because I can remember when my kids were younger, that's where they used to build the floats.
My
And
only knowledge is by satellite, and the rest of the property is wooded, where
Okay.
the house hasn't been cleared for the house.
okay. 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 All right. Okay. So Sharon, thank you for that information. I think this will probably be a topic that we'll keep discussing. It will be in the agenda. I'll pass the information to Michael. And thank you for bringing this up. I mean, that's our charge, is to look for, properties that, it might be of interest of the town.
I can write up like a one-page sheet too, and I will send it to Mike, and, with the data that I have on where exactly the property is, what the assessed value is, what the
Right.
taxes have been, and so on.
Now that would be good. And and you did make a point that I think it's valid earlier on, but it's not one of the criteria for open space. Is, in the end, I think the criteria, there will be very few. We have another member of the public joining us. We have actually very few properties that will ever hit that many, hit 5 or 6 of the criterias, and especially because of the size. So at some point, I think we'll probably need to change the criteria for open space, because there will not be as many big pieces of property in town. But we have a member, Mary Wilson, who would like to speak again. Yes, Mary.
Yeah, while you guys were talking, I'm not as proficient in the open space plan as you guys are, but I found the section you referenced, and it seems to say that we use this criteria for prioritizing, right? So the more points you hit, the higher in priority likely it would go. But the minimum criteria seems to be meet at least 3, which seems reasonable, to be on the acquisition list. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that it doesn't seem like, as it's currently written, that you have to meet all of them or the majority of them. But 3 seems to be set as the minimum criteria. And also, while everyone was talking, I also looked this up on the Mass Mapper natural resources reference, and there are a couple of wetlands on the property, but for one that big, there's not actually a lot. And there is not an active ACEC or critical and endangered wildlife habitat on that particular parcel. And I don't see that it abuts any conservation lands that the towns currently owns, nor do I see any type of agricultural types of abatements on any of the adjacent properties.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you, Mary.
Thank
I
you.
mean, Sharon, if since the minimum is 3, maybe when you write that one page, if you could elaborate around the 3, what are the 3 criteria that meet the open space requirement, it'll probably help us on further discussion. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for coming and joining us. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the upcoming town master plan process.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had requested this be on the agenda, actually.
Right. I was going to ask you to speak about
I'm
it.
sorry. So I concur with Mary. I was looking at the town GIS rather than the mapper, but it is adjacent to to our wells. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 water supply wells for the town. And I would actually want to buy it, but I wanted to float it by the people here if there was if there was knowledge of the ability to override that DEP thing there by protecting it. I mean, they want to get out from under the property, and it would be nice if it didn't get developed. They've taken a loan out on it. They need to get some money for it, but they don't really care if the development. And again, I talked to the owners at the water district meeting, So I was wondering, Brandon, specifically, put you on the spot. Do you know of any protections that would override they've got 2 monitoring wells that are not testing the way they should?
I'm not aware of any, but I can say that I did look at the zone 2 wellhead protection areas around
Yeah,
our existing
just
well
outside.
field, and these are outside of that.
Just outside. But how about like the Forest Legacy Program? Would that restrict housing and thereby restrict the need or the ability to drill another well? I guess you can't always drill a well, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you applied a conservation strategy out there, it would limit certain development activities, and Forest Legacy is certainly one way you could do that. If you could get involved in one of those sort of blanket Forest Legacy projects, for instance, that National River Watershed Association is regularly promoting. But those typically take 2 to 3 years to complete and require the landowner to sign up and commit to wait while they wait for federal funding to be allocated. So, that's the Forest Legacy process. There may be water supply protection grants that the water district might have access to, but because this is outside of any of their zone 2s, they probably would not compete very well for that. So really what it comes down to, unfortunately, like is usually the case in Lunenburg, is that if you want to pursue purchase of a conservation interest in a piece of property, that your best grant opportunity is the land grant program through the state, which is the same grant program we tapped for the Lane and Saliba properties, or the park grant program, which is the grant that sister grant to the land grant program that we tapped for the south side of the Saliba property that now sits in Parks care and control. So those 2 grants typically are our best chance at getting outside funding to help us support municipal acquisitions. Still requires the town to come up with like 40+% or plus or minus % of the total purchase price from our own coffers. So just to give you a little bit more background in terms of what funding sources this might qualify for.
then it would turn into town land, right?
Right.
But what about North County? Would they have any interest in a DEP and infected site?
They might be interested in holding a conservation easement over it. I can't think of any, having come from that world when I worked for a nonprofit land trust doing that work. If the property was contaminated, we'd never want to get in the chain of title on that. So
Okay.
a conservation easement keeps you from being a fee owner of that property. But again, North County Land Trust, a fantastic organization. They would be trying to raise money to if they had to pay for such an easement, they would have to raise the money to come up with the funds to do that. So, and where would they look? They would look to the town, or they would look to that Forest Legacy program, or the principal places they would be looking. So it tends to be a bit of a tail chasing exercise.
If I could just say
Sure,
something.
sure, Sharon, go
Um,
ahead.
There is a mortgage outstanding on the property. It's a little over $100,000. The people who own it have said many times it's cost them like $500,000 to get all the testing done. And also they've been penalized by the state for not cleaning it up for many decades after they were told to. And I do think it's fair for them to want to recognize some value out of this property. I mean, I don't think it's fair that to think that the town would be willing to pay, or I wouldn't even ask the town to pay what these developers appear to be offering, which is about $400,000, something like that. As far as the contamination itself goes, there were 14 sewage pits there. 2 of them accepted industrial waste. They cleaned up and removed the industrial drums that had leaked into the soil, and they cleaned up and removed 100 or so, 130 some tons of soil as well. The only thing that they are paying for right now, aside from testing, although, and our well has not been tested for, I don't know, 3 years now, are the filters. They're carbon filters that go onto the filtration system. So it's like a sediment filter, but it's activated carbon. There are 2 houses who have wells, including mine, that will require filter systems probably forever. And they cost about $60 a piece. You replace them 4 times a year. So
Okay.
just from the cost perspective, that's what I know.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, anyone else has any questions or comments about this topic? Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Sharon. I'll let Mike
Thank you.
know that you'll be sending us, you'll be sending him a 1-pager with some information.
Okay, thank you so much for listening to me. I appreciate it. It's good to see Brandon again, and you, Anna, as well, and to meet everybody else, and Matthew.
I know.
Great to see you, Sharon.
All right, I'm going to sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, the next item on the agenda is upcoming town master plan process, and that was an item that Matt asked to be added to the agenda. Would you like to speak to it, Matt?
Sure, I think, yeah, no problem. So there's gonna be in master planning phase for 18 to 24 months, so could be up to a 2-year process. And we're, right now trying to figure out the makeup of a master planning committee. Right now, we've got like 15 suggested people. And I can go over the groups of them if anybody's interested, but the open space is not one of the listed groups. I don't imagine there would be a great interest in anybody in this group wanting to be a member of that subcommittee. And please speak now if there is. Okay. Very good.
Matt, I wonder, I mean, I know in previous, sorry to interrupt, but I know in previous master planning processes, they've used sections of the open space plan that's already been drafted to, essentially inform the open space component. So since rather than duplicating the work, it's something that's already prepared that can be mined for information.
Definitely, no doubt. I mean, we're definitely going to use that brand new open space plan that we have, not brand new, but very new. And
Yep.
you did a wonderful job on that. There is a recreation and open space element to the master plan. So that will probably be, the highlight of that element. And I'm certain that there would be an interest in, so basically the town has spent $150,000 to hire, what we've got is 3 firms have come together to do this with us. And they probably will come up with questions, and that open space plan will be certainly one of the things that they're going to want to look at. And I certainly, I don't know if it would be me, if it would be Adam, or it would be somebody, one of the consultants maybe would be reached to this group if they had questions. But certainly, so this is like a roadmap for our next 10 to 15 to 20 years. It's supposed to be updated every 10 years, but I think they want to look a little further. So that's basically what the master planning is going to be doing, and there's probably going to be some things that we feel strongly about. So be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think Nathan, when my husband was on the planning board, I think they just did an update of the master plan. This is a big undertaking, but it is one that is just as valuable as our open space that can define a lot of the town needs in every aspect. And I think Matt was talking about how if we had a good master plan, we probably wouldn't be dealing with the whole empty buildings that we've been dealing for like a decade now.
Yeah.
You know, the Parks Commission, we're going to be discussing that in our next meeting, and I'm very confident that you will have a representative from us. So I think that's a very key document to have. And the other thing that I think it's important too is to make the leaders of the town aware of that plan, because sometimes we create reports, really good reports by specialized groups, but not a criticism to the select board, but a little bit is that they are not as aware of some of those documents, and they make decisions that are detached from those things. And I can give an example to a really good example is actually that I find is, you know, we had the master plan, the open space plan that talks about the needs of parks, and the select board went ahead and they were trying to develop the school street park, which is a good park in merits, but I think it lacked the support of the town for various reasons, and it was not one that was envisioned within the open space. And I think it was really in my opinion, it was a bit of a bravado approach to a park, and it failed. I think the town saw that. So I think it's very important for the leadership of the town to be aware of these documents and take them seriously, because a lot of people put a lot of thought into it, and they're good and they're comprehensive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the process for this in the coming years.
Excellent, because it does involve a great amount of public outreach. We're gonna have a lot of sit down. Hopefully, we're gonna have a lot of sit downs. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of participation, a lot of input. And I mean, this is gonna be talked about in a lot of the circles in town. If you've got, you know, if you're involved even somewhat with the town, you'll be hearing about this, hopefully.
That's great.
$1,000 for 2 years. That we should get a really big bang out of this. And like you say, it is a roadmap. Unfortunately, ours is, I think 2002 was maybe the oldest element. I think 2014, we did an element. And like you said, the planning board had been doing elements at a time. We'd been getting small pieces from, I think some grant money, some capital plan money, to do elements at a time with MRPC, and push came to shove, and we needed to get the whole thing done. And I think it's a good people that we chose to do it, a good group of people, and we're really excited. A lot of energy, and they had really good ideas, and they didn't seem to want to cookie cutter a little plan. Sounds like we're gonna get some good results out. And again, it really is dependent on public participation. There you have it.
All right, thank you, Matt. Does anybody else have any questions, comments about this topic?
Just want to thank the planning board for spearheading it. I think it's fantastic, really important for the town. And thanks for making the effort. I think it's fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is committee comments, concerns. Mary, do you want to talk about the our Earth Day project? I know you gave an update to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I don't think I was expecting to do that, but should be easy to get to the final thing. So Anna and I conspired to have an Earth Days event throughout the month of April to encourage volunteers to come out and help out with spring cleanups of the parks properties, various conservation properties, and then also the library as well. And I think our teamwork paid off. Anna had some really creative ideas about how to do some signups of the online signups through Google Sheets, and had a QR code in our marketing banner that seemed to work out really, really well. We did 3 Lunenburg Ledger ads. We did social media posts, primarily Facebook. Did a lot of kind of personal engagement. I know she was posting post-event. I was posting post-event. We were also doing dialogue with anybody that signed up that was representing a group. I think all of those things worked really well. We ended up with what was it? Yeah, 13 properties and areas that benefited from this initiative. We had a volunteer turnout of 122 people and volunteer hours of 361. And I just used some real coarse math using the Mass Trails in-kind compensation metric for volunteer hours of $31 per hour. And that came up to more than $11,000 of benefit back to the community through that initiative. So we were really excited about it. Anna and I are already conspiring to try to start getting together in October of next year to think about 2024 and what we can do to, improve on those metrics and, keep the momentum going.
Yep. And the only other thing I'm going to add, it was great working with Mary, and I look forward to working with her again. She was a great partner in crime. So I appreciate you, Mary.
Yeah, we had a good time.
We did. And I think
Yeah.
when we went to the select board meeting was the first time we met in person. So it was interesting. Any other comments from the board?
I'm really excited to hear about that effort and the success you guys had. That's awesome. And I know we were talking before we called the meeting to order about, a future open space plan update that will definitely come around. Those types of victories and wins that we have are exactly in keeping with some of the goals that we have listed in the open space plan. And one of the things we have to do in every update, of course, is talk about the things we've accomplished since the plan was written. And so those types of activities are really important accomplishments to list. So we as a group should remember these types of things when it comes time to do that, because these are things that it takes a lot of effort and everything, but 4 years down the road, we'll manage to forget. Unless
Right.
you are so successful at having this every year, which I hope you are, because it sounds like it was a really great outcome. So. And then it'll be a lot easier to remember if we're doing it annually for the next several years. But kudos to you guys, and definitely a huge win for the town.
Definitely. Yeah. And in these type of events, the more you do, the more successful, the more people get involved, the more people get involved. So it was great. And it was very grassroots like, because we had a list of some projects, but we had at least close to another half a dozen of just people wanting to do stuff and just by being inspired by what was happening. So it was great. I look forward to working with Mary again. So that's great.
Likewise.
Thank you. Any other comments from any other board member? And I keep saying board, but I think we're a committee. Yeah, committee. Any other committee member? Now, I will add, I will have a couple comments. The first one, it's all related to Marshall Park, because these days I live and breathe Marshall Park. We are moving forward with the schematic designs, and we will be having a 50% presentation on May 24th is our target date. And the final presentation should be the beginning to mid-June. And it would be perfect timing for the park grant. And that should be enough documentation to get us started with that. And everything seems to be aligning, all the stars, knock on the wood. But the other very exciting thing, and also related to park grant, is that yesterday the select board agreed to commit $1 million from ARPA funds to the renovation project for the construction. So I think this is now an official renovation project, not just an idea, because we have money in the bank. And we are very excited about it, because it's truly what we are going for is multi-use, multi-generational accessible wall that is climate resilient. Those were the requirements we had for the engineering firm and the architectural firm, and you know, and we're going to be pushing for that. So I just love seeing all the activity that we have in Lunenburg for open space and how passionate everybody is. So anyway, it's a great community to be part of. So that's my update from Parks. So, all right, with that, I will, and any other comments before I move on to the next agenda item? Okay, the next agenda item is public comment. Do we have any public comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Now as our meeting schedule, our next meeting is scheduled for June 14, and for July will be July 12th. And that's, please update your, it's great to have a quorum and have this meeting. So I appreciate, and with that, that's all. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, can I have a
Second.
second? All right, great. All right, roll call. Brandon,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and I for myself, and good night, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you all. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.